What's up guys, my name is Andy. Not too long ago, I installed a power steering kit from Mike Meyer, which is an awesome kit by the way, in my 66 Mustang. And at the time of the install, with my super calibrated eyes, it looked like the power steering pump pulley was in line with the water pump pulley. And since then, I've discovered that that's not the case. What I want to do is add a shim or a spacer behind the power steering pump, which will move the pump forward towards the front of the car and align those two pulleys a little bit better. Now, a lot of you guys are familiar with my channel and my website where I design and sell parts for my Mustang and for my F100. Or I also, shameless plug, I have a new t-shirt design. This is the KruseBuilt. This is just the front design on the front of the t-shirt here. It's just like my other t-shirt, so it's a real high quality shirt, very comfortable, very breathable. This is the kind of shirt that I want, the kind of shirt that I want to buy. And so I buy those, and so far it's been great for everybody. So this is just another shirt that I'm selling on my website, KruseBuilt.com. A lot of my videos are how-to videos on how to install parts or upgrade parts on my Mustang or on my F100. And this video is a little bit different where I'm going to go through the process of what I did to design this spacer. Now, these things aren't incredibly difficult at all. They're not complicated, but this is what I did, my thought process and how I got to the part. So let's dig right in. So as we look at the power steering pump, if you kind of come over the top of it, some of you guys might be able to catch it and some of you may not, but this belt here is just not straight. I mean, it's straight, but it's off at an angle. And what I've got here is this power steering pump is actually sitting back that way, just a little farther than I'd like. Now, it could be a couple of reasons why. I don't know, maybe the pulley that I have on the power steering pump or the water pump is different than what other ones are out there. Maybe I set the pulley on the power steering pump too deep onto the shaft of the pump here. Could be a couple different things, but I do know that we are at an advantage here because to space something out in this scenario, it's a lot easier than to shim something in or modify something to move it inward. So we're in a good spot. Now, KRC was thinking ahead on something like this, and they do offer a shim or a spacer, but unfortunately this is about 5/16 of an inch thick. Way more than what I need, and I think it's just their default spacer that they sell. In fact, I even looked on their website and there isn't a thinner spacer or different thicknesses that you can buy. This is the only one that I have been able to find, and it came with my power steering kit, but it doesn't work for my application. Now, I don't need much. This isn't off by very much, but if I put a straight edge here on the water pump pulley, and now this is not a super scientific method, but if you put it on here, you can see, I'm trying to hold this level, there we go. You can see that there's a gap in between the straight edge here and the pulley lip. Now, the pulley lip thickness on the water pump may be different than the pulley thickness on the lip here of the power steering pump, and that's maybe part of it. That's why this is not an exact science. But when you put this on here, you can see that they are not aligned, and it's the thickness of the two flanges here on these pulleys are close enough that you can tell, okay, we need to be able to move that thing out. Now, the gap here is between a 1/16 of an inch and an 1/8 inch gap. So I figured, okay, we can deal with that because that's less than the 5/16 spacer that KRC has provided with us, but more than just what I want to leave. I don't want to leave it like that. I want to make it better. So where can I go from here? There's a couple different ways that you can space this out. You can get real simple, super simple and do something like some washers in between the power steering pump body itself and the mount flanges on the block. You could stack up some sheet metal. There's a couple different ways you can do it. And so I figured I don't want to just put washers in there. I think that's just kind of a cheap, chintzy way of doing it. And plus it's going to centralize the mount pressure on those two washers and not across the body of the power steering pump. And I think that's a better mount, is to have a full self-support or full supported surface on the power steering pump itself. So I don't want to do washers. So then I traced the power steering pump itself, which there's an easier way to do it, and I didn't think about it at the time. I traced the back of the power steering pump body on a piece of paper and cut it out, and I figured, okay, from here I've got myself a little template that I can use to trace on some steel and cut that out. And because I'm not great with a bandsaw and a file and some sanding paper, this horrible contraption is what I made off of that template. Now, that's not the best way to do it. I do improve that, but just to get something as a spacer, just to work, this is what I came up with. This is just a piece of 1/8 inch steel that I bought, just a scrap piece. It was 3 inch wide piece, which is perfect for what I'm doing here. Ultimately, I just wanted the 1/8 inch spacer part, and I cut this out and I spray painted it black and threw that on there to see what it would look like. So unfortunately, this was actually too much. It moved the pulley out too far So where it was almost about a 1/16 of an inch farther out than where I wanted. So that told me that really I just needed to go down to a 1/16 inch piece of steel. That this 1/8 inch piece wasn't going to be good enough for my application. Now, that, again, that may be different for somebody else depending on what pulleys they have and everything. But for my setup, this 1/8 inch piece did not work. So then I took my awesome template that I had and I went down to a 1/16 inch piece of steel. Now this time I figured, okay, I don't need all of these fancy cutouts on here just to make sure that it fits. So I just stuck with a simple shape like this. I just kind of basically I skipped all of the little cutouts around here and just cut out just basically the outside of this thing out of a 16th inch, or what is this, 16 gauge steel. Now this is more of what I was looking for. So now that I have that 16th inch spacer behind the power steering pump, we can see that this lines up better. Again, it's difficult to get the camera right above the pulley so you're looking straight down, but if we put the straight edge on here, we'll find that this is, there we go, a lot closer now than it was before. Before I had quite a bit of distance, but now we're actually touching the surface, the front surface of the pump pulley. So this is where I wanted. I need that 16th inch spacer on my application. So great, now I have the spacer that I know that works, but this isn't gonna work. I feel like I'm taking a shortcut here by just cutting out some steel. It does the job, but I think we can do a lot better. So what I wanted to do is make a part that looks like it was something that came from KRC, and then maybe somebody else might need the part just like me. So I wanted to make something that was better. So going back to my original design with this piece of paper, I wanted to model something off of this so that it would be more accurate. Now, again, I traced this off the back of the pump housing, just put a piece of paper up there and kind of creased around the edges to make like a sharp edge on the paper. Then I took a pen and outlined it. I should have just used the spacer that they included in the kit and then traced it off of that. But if you line it up here, again, this isn't gonna be perfect, but it's pretty dang close for what I came up with. But I need to do better than that. So I took the measurements off of my spacer and I went into my 3D modeling software and I designed one of these parts. Now, this is, first of all, this is 3D printed. I have a 3D printer here and it makes it fantastic for designing stuff and trying things. I was able to make this part, print it out, and then was able to put it on the car and it's the same. You make it to a 1/16 of an inch or whatever thickness you need it to be. And this design comes out fantastic, but unfortunately this is a PLA type of material. This doesn't hold up well to heat. So if I were to use this in there as the spacer, it would probably just melt and drip off the bottom because of the heat, the temperatures that get underneath the hood there. So this wouldn't work as a final solution, but it gives me a chance to try it out and see how it fits. So if we take the spacer that KRC provided and we place this over it, again, it's gonna be hard to tell on the camera here, but that is pretty dang close. And that's what I wanted. I want something that was more accurate. So I got a part. Now, where do I go from here? I've got a place that does water jet cutting for me on some of my parts, and I sent them the DXF file of this and have them print it out. And then I get the final product. And here it is. 16th inch aluminum spacer. This is perfect. Now, the reason why I did aluminum is it doesn't need to be coated. You know, I could have done stainless, but the housing on the pump is aluminum. That way this doesn't have to be painted, keeps the cost down, that kind of stuff. So now I've got the spacer I'm looking for. So let's get it installed and see how it comes out. It's probably a good time to point out that these things are directional. The way that this is shaped in the back, we're gonna need it facing this way with like the shorter side over on the left-hand side. So we'll just over the bolts, get my fuel line out of the way, and then we can thread this back into the mount bracket that's on the front of the block here. All right, now that we got that shim in there, this is a much better looking piece than that black cutout thing I was making before. But that's good, this is what we want. It looks like it came from the factory, that way we'll be able to shim this thing out. So let's get the ruler in here and see how this came out. All right, come in here, we'll use the front edge of this pulley again, and perfect. Yeah, remember we're touching the pulley, this is what we wanted. Everything's straight. This is much better than what it was before, and that's what I was looking for. So perfect, we got what we wanted. I've got a new part on my car that fits like it's supposed to, and then also I'm sure there's a handful of you guys out there that have the same issue where that spacer that was included in the kit isn't gonna work for you. You need something 1/16 of an inch. The nice thing about this is that if you needed to double up and do, you know, like a 1/16 and a 1/16 to make an 1/8 of an inch, if you needed that kind of a spacer because of your pulleys or whatever, you could double it up and there you go. So anyways, this is something that I have on my website, KruseBuilt.com. Again, it's just another way to show how I come about making the parts that I have for my car and the process of going through and making them. So it's just something kind of fun to show you guys how to do that. And these parts are on the website. So again, KruseBuilt.com. And while you're there, maybe get yourself one of the shirts, the KruseBuilt, the new shirts that are on there. And then you're good to go. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.